Several months ago, I asked a question on behalf of the thousands of workers and their families employed at Chalk River Laboratories in the Upper Ottawa Valley, and on behalf of the thousands of other Canadians who are employed in the nuclear sector. I asked the Minister of Natural Resources to talk about Canada's world-class nuclear industry and the tremendous opportunity that awaits Canada in the new build nuclear power market. Specifically, my question focused on small modular reactors, SMRs. I acknowledge that after I prompted the federal government with my question, the minister announced the government's Canadian Small Modular Reactor Plan. I want to assure the Minister of Natural Resources that he has my continuing support when it comes to good jobs in the nuclear sector. The nuclear industry is a big employer in my constituency and has been since the dawn of the nuclear age. Not only does the Minister of Natural Resources have my full support for Canada to get into the game and join the other advanced Western nations like the United States, the United Kingdom, who are investing in next generation build, he has my full support to fund a replacement for the National Research Universal NRU reactor. That piece of critical infrastructure was recently decommissioned after almost 60 years of faithful service. Canada should be investing in national infrastructure like a modern version having NRU capabilities. I'm pleased to quote Deep River Mayor Suzanne Dion. Deep River in the Ottawa Valley is a willing community to host a demonstration small modular reactor. And quote, as both a mayor and concerned global citizen, I believe there's a need for more urgency by the federal government and the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission in the development and safe deployment of SMRs and VCSMRs in Canada. And I wholeheartedly endorse his statement of principles for the S.M.R. action plan. The town of Deep River is keenly interested to do more to encourage and facilitate the accelerated development and rollout of SMRs locally throughout Canada and globally. We are passionate about becoming the first host community of a VSMR in Canada and to be ambassadors and real-life demonstration example for small or remote northern communities who may not yet have a comfort level with nuclear. The town's interest and motivation in SMRs comes both from our history as Canada's first nuclear community and our vision for the future.
I'll begin by saying that it may not be often that we find ourselves in agreement, but I thank the honourable member for her statements of support of the government's direction at the beginning of her remarks. I'm pleased, Mr. Speaker, to be able to address an issue that's important to Ontario and New Brunswick, but indeed the entire country. The timing of this question may not be could not possibly be better. We're contemplating the building of a low-emissions energy future for our entire country. We need energy systems that are reliable, secure, clean, and affordable for Canadians. They have to be competitive as well, with the potential to attract investment, as financial markets are increasingly looking towards jurisdictions that value strong environmental, social, and governance principles, also known as ESG. This is where small modular reactors fit in, an emerging technology which holds the potential to deliver the baseload power that can pull more renewable electricity into our energy mix and help us move away from conventional coal and fossil fuel power generation. This is the context in which our government launched in December an action plan for small modular reactors, or SMRs if you prefer. It's an initiative that involves a range of partners, Mr. Speaker, including industry and provincial and territorial governments. This action plan builds on our support for an industry that sustains more than 76,000 Canadian jobs. As the member opposite knows, Canada is among an elite group of nations that have the full spectrum of nuclear capabilities, from building reactors and to manufacturing fuel to conducting world-class research and development and establishing long-term solutions to radioactive waste. We also happen to be the world's second largest source of uranium. And our regulatory system is internationally respected for its commitment to evidence-based decision-making that places safety at its core. All of this contributes to our global brand that makes us ideally placed to tap into a vast market, one expected to be worth $150 to $300 billion annually by 2040, delivering $19 billion in economic benefits to Canada between those years, between 2030 and 2040. And creating in the process, Mr. Speaker, I might add, over 6,000 Canadian jobs annually. Now, demand is driven by the growing need for smaller and affordable nuclear energy sources to generate electricity with zero emissions, to power resource extraction in remote places, to desalinate water, to replace coal, and offer a clean alternative source of light and heat in Indigenous, rural, and remote communities. For Canada, SMRs could help us meet our Paris targets, all while creating good middle-class jobs and continuing to advance reconciliation with Indigenous peoples at the same time. Mr. Speaker, we are making significant progress. Think back to 2018 when we hosted our first international conference on SMRs and launched our SMR roadmap. We now have more than 100 partners in the nuclear industry, in other sectors of the economy, including petroleum and mining, among Indigenous leaders, universities, labor groups, and civil society, also amongst provincial, territorial, and municipal governments. They know Canada has what it takes to be a world leader. Mr. Speaker, I want to cite just a few examples of our progress. First, we announced a $20 million investment in S.M.R development by Terrestrial Energy. This funding will help the Oakville, Ontario-based company reach a new milestone in the exciting development of its Generation 4 reactor project. Second, Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission is focusing, as I speak, on a number of S.M.R vendor design reviews, including terrestrials. This will allow the Commission staff to provide feedback early in a company's design process to ensure they're on the right track. I'll conclude, Mr. Speaker, by extending my thanks to two people in particular. One, the member for St. John's, Rossé, for his advocacy for SMRs in his home province of New Brunswick. And second, to my former physics professor at St. Francis Xavier University, Go X Go, Michael Steinitz, who continues to provide advice to me in my own community on energy policy and what the future may look like for Canada 10, 20, 50 years from now. Thank you kindly.
The Honourable Member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, I'm also pleased to confirm the County of Renfrew passed the following resolution regarding small modular reactors, stating that Council support Canadian Nuclear Laboratories Limited in their efforts to pursue research and development initiatives for small modular reactor and very small modular reactors, and that the County of Renfrew support and encourage the hosting and safe operations of S.M.R and VSMR technologies at Chalk River Laboratories. What's needed now is a funding commitment from the Government of Canada to make this happen. Canada cannot afford to be not in the game. Too much is at stake. Canadians should not have to wait for an election budget full of short-term spending promises. The time to build for the future is now.
The Honourable Private Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will point out that there's no conversation about SMRs that will be short-term spending. This is a long-term part of the energy mix as we go forward to establish the potential for a net zero Canada. Mr. Speaker, just to wrap up, the Canadian Nuclear Laboratories is moving closer to its goal to help prove the commercial viability of SMRs. It wants to host a demonstration project at one of its sites in 2026. The most advanced among the applicants is the Global First Power joint venture that includes Ontario Power Generation. The project is now undergoing an environmental assessment, and she wants to talk about funding commitments, Mr. Speaker. Just last week, our government announced that it has invested over $50 million in Moltex Energy Canada Incorporated to support production of emissions-free energy through waste-to-stable salts process that recycles existing used nuclear fuel to produce non-emitting energy. Mr. Speaker, Canada is on the path of this global trend to ensure that SMRs play a key role in the energy mix of our future and that they will be compatible with our net zero legislation that we put forward just last year. Thank you.